Give me a mud puddle and I'll give you a mud castle.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah.
love, I don't know how many times my grandchildren have literally deserted me on the beach because Nella's been so invested in the sandcastle.
Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, hosted by me, soul-fueled storyteller Kylie Fatchett. We dive into the truth-talking, unedited stories of metamorphosis, growth, and evolution. I deeply believe that sharing our stories holds transformative magic. Join us to listen to future humans, change agents, extraordinary ordinary people, healers, and paradigm shifters as we honor the power of our messy, magical stories. Let's get wild and finally fucking free together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I am Kylie, as I always am, as the host. And today I am joined by the lovely Kez at Wickham St George. How are you, Kez?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. We were connected through the beautiful Sandy Davies. So I always say to people, any friend of Sandy's is a friend of mine. Walking sunshine. So for those of my listeners who don't already know your lovely self, could you introduce yourself and what you do in the world?
Okay, well, my name is Kez Wickham St George, and I've grown in leaps and bounds from a little author that occasionally put something into a newspaper
Yeah.
and clapped wildly with self applause when it was published. I have become a bestseller, award-winning author of about 5 books.
Wow.
I've actually written 15. I'm on just about to edit my 15th book.
Wow. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
then
Very cool.
after that, it was like, well, I found that with my training at college and at university, I now train other people to write. And I'm their mentor, I'm their go-to. I just love, I don't, how can I put this? I don't have a lot of clients because I love spending time with each and every one of my clients. So yeah, maybe 3 or 4 clients a year, and
Yeah.
I'm really happy with that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
There's the
So
deep
yeah, and
diving,
then
isn't it?
tuning into a publisher because that's what they needed.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. 15 books sounds like a lot of books, and it sounds like someone who loves creativity or loves to create.
Yes.
What have you always been a really creative person, like from little?
Yes, I have.
Mm,
I from a little girl, very quiet little girl, very
yeah.
didn't make too much noise, never sort of had a messy bedroom or any, just very quiet little girl. And did as I was told.
Yep.
And my mother always said children should be seen and not heard. So that's exactly what happened in my household. I spent most of my growing up years, my informative years, is listening to female gossip because mum, unbeknown to any, it wasn't known then, but she had a woman's circle going on every Saturday morning.
Oh,
And so it wasn't called that then. It was
secret
called
women's
like
business.
a get together.
Yeah.
So my aunties, and a lot of them were Maori, and I didn't know then. My mother was very ashamed of the fact that we had Maori blood. So nobody told me until I was about 6 years ago. Nobody actually told
Wow.
me.
Oh, really? Far
Yeah,
out.
I knew,
Yeah.
but there was no proof, and now I have the proof.
Yeah.
But anyway, so as a little girl, I spent most of my time colouring in books, pencils, sitting under the kitchen table because mum would always protect me. But I actually learned a skill under that table, and that was modulating people's voices and hearing the angst, the joy, the whatever was in their voice, deciphering it.
Yeah.
And that skill never left.
Yeah. Yep.
So when people talk to me, I'm not actually listening to your words, I'm listening to your tone
Yep.
and how you talk, how you receive my words and I receive yours, which is a skill that's getting lost because the world's full of chatter.
Yeah, lots of noise, but no substance. Yes, I agree. It's interesting as you tell that story about being under the table, it actually took me straight back to where I grew up. My dad's house had, like, it did have a formal dining area, but we didn't use it. There was a breakfast bar, but the way that it was set up was his house was very long and skillion roofed. It was built in the 50s, and at that stage it won like architectural design awards because it was so weird. I loved it, but it was skillion roof, and the way that it was designed was there was a breakfast bar that was in between where the lounge area was and the kitchen area, which was all open, and the separator was a low side of the breakfast bar where you would sit on a normal chair, and a high side where my dad used to hold court to all of his visitors. And he would be on one of those, he used to have this wicker stool that had like, woven seat kind of thing with the back. And as you're talking, you just took me straight back to being a kid underneath the breakfast bar, curled up, like usually like on a cool winter's morning, because he was like he loved his coffee and his breakfast chats with people. And because he was long-term army, I would have like either relatives or army people or whatever. Yeah. And they would come and chat to Dad. They would be, on the low side of the table. He would be holding court, but I would be snuggled up, usually with one of those god-awful polyester bloody dressing gowns I've got in my head. Like I literally can feel the feel of, that the awful, like super highly flammable. No kid should ever have been in
lots of electricity.
Exactly. But what I remember about that was feeling really cozy and like snuggly and safe, like always, sort of cozied up, but hearing rather than listening to the actual words, listening to the energy of the words and the like my dad had a really deep kind of voice. And so thank you for sharing that story, because that took me straight back to somewhere that I haven't been for quite some time.
You'd be surprised how often, when I tell that story, how often women around about 45 plus will say to me, oh my God, I remember the times when we were told, because my sister would sit behind the couch. That was her go-to. To go behind the couch with her whatnots, whatever. Like she was 10 years older than me, so she kept a diary. So she'd be behind the couch writing. And the other skill I learned there, Kylie, was knowing who was new in the group.
Yep.
Because of their feet under the table, I always knew whose feet belonged to who.
That's so funny. I hope you never see my feet, because I have the most munted. My grandfather had awful, what are they called? Like hammer toes, when your little toes are like little, And so then my mum passed them, like he passed them to my mum passed them to me, I've passed them to my kids. But hammer toes are very good at picking things up off the floor, which
they are.
Yes.
My husband's got hammer toes, yes.
There you go. So I'm constantly, going like that. And so are my daughters. And the other day, one of my daughters and her partner were over, and I picked something up off the floor with my toes, and he's like, oh my God, it's like a family thing. It's like, yeah.
Nothing wrong with us.
That's so funny. So when you think back about to writing specifically, creatively wise, when would you have started to like write stories as someone who created from something in her imagination?
Okay, so where it first started was I was officially an artist, and I went to university to learn how to be a creative artist, but ended up knowing more than what the instructors did where my art was concerned. So I decided I would then apply for a teaching position at the university, which I got. I also had 3 children then, so I was a very busy divorced mum with a full-time job, and I honestly don't know how my feet touched the ground. I just seemed to be busy non-stop, and I started teaching because I didn't have time to sit down and write a full-time program, which I was aching to do. What I taught them to do was we would have I would encourage them to do their artwork. And it was all different modems and mediums. So it was really mixed what I was teaching. And so maybe 2 or 3 times a year, we would have an exhibition, and we would invite the governance of the school I was teaching. And the governance was related to the higher powers of Auckland government. So, it went in a long stream of who knew who.
Who's who in the zoo, yes.
So, and I've never been one for titles. So I used to leave that up to management. and I would have an exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
The writing side came in when I introduced my students into writing either a very small paragraph about their work, what
Mm-hmm.
was included in their work,
Mm-hmm.
and make it so that it was like a story, not just I've
Yes.
used paint,
Yeah.
full stop.
Yeah.
I used an 8.6 medium squirrel hairbrush.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
So let's make a story. How did you find the brush? Where did you go shopping?
Mm-hmm.
How does it fit in your hand? Because unbeknown to a lot of people, artists have their favorite brushes.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so
Yes.
it's, or a pencil, I still have my
I still
favorite. Yeah. Yeah.
I
So,
I can't start my day without my right pencil.
no, I'm not that bad, but
Oh, I am.
but if it comes to artwork, I have to have. I love my big bulky brushes so I can smash it onto the canvas and use a lot of gesso, and all sorts of stuff goes there. I encouraged my students, my clients, to use their ability of using word power. So that when, and then we turned to poetry. So they had a choice where they could write a small, say, 250 word paragraph, and have it beneath the painting explaining, or a piece of poetry that also took you on another journey.
Very
And
cool.
that's what I love to do, is I love making people think about the journey they're on. How important is it to you that the journey that you're on at the moment is creating a pathway for other people to follow?
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode. Legacy. Oh my goodness. I am always, when I'm working with someone on like writing their story, copywriting through storytelling, so similar sort of lens, I guess. I'm always interested in the golden thread that I call that runs through their life. And I feel like the golden thread of the Kez that was doing this with artists is the kid that was on the floor listening to the stories and the energy and how, you know, and I'm guessing also the relationships and the interaction and what's said and what's unsaid and all of those things inform your ability to, pull stories out of people, but also write stories. It's very cool.
Absolutely correct. It's all connected.
Yeah.
And as you grow up, you learn to tie the loose ends together and become this person that when I look back and think 10 years ago, who knew?
Yeah.
You know, it's just an amazing journey I've been on.
Yeah.
But it's also, I'm really grateful that there are many, many people I will never, ever face up to, talk to, be in front of, that I have actually left a small nugget of, perhaps if you tried this. You know, because wherever I go, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Bali and it was said to me, how do you start writing your own story? And so I looked at this woman, and she's the most amazing photographer. She showed me some of her work, and it was all very digital and very fairy world. Just beautiful work. And I said to her, have you ever thought about once upon a time? Ever thought about that? And that goes for everybody, because we've all had once upon a time.
Yeah, exactly.
And it may sound childish, and it may sound, but you know, if you just try it, you don't have to use it, because once you've written that one sentence, the story starts to spill.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. What is your it's one of the things that I'm often talking to clients about when we've done work together, say on messaging, for instance, and then they're going off to start writing like their own social media or their own sales page or whatever with the kind of the messaging underpinning that we've developed. And one of the biggest things that is like it feels like such a mindset barrier for so many people is just getting started. And like the way that I always get around that is literally act like and give yourself permission to write a shitty first draft. Like just get something out. It doesn't matter what it is, what words are, whether it feels good or not, because then you've got a starting point. And I think that for some of us, it's the blank page that feels the most threatening. Whereas when you've got something on the page, you're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. I'll tweak that there. And then I'm going to do that editing and I'm going to move that around. And you have something to kind of work with. Do you have the same sort of, like if you're working with someone and they want to write, just say it is their own story, like how do you help people get around the pulling everything out of their head and starting?
Okay, so I asked them to write down the questions that everybody asks. What do you want out of this? What is it that you want? Not what I want. I might be your mentor or your structural editor. I might be all of those things, but I'm not you. And I know what I want. So what do you want out of this? Do you want fame, fortune? Do you want people following you? What do you actually want out of this? And you don't have to answer me. There's no request to say I want answers. I want you to sit down for the next week because I try and meet weekly. So before and I want you to write down those questions to yourself. And when you quieten the ego, because the ego has a huge part to play, a massive part to play in this.
I want to be famous.
My one was, well, I want to earn so much money that hubby never has to work. Well, that went out the window pretty quickly. Because I was still working, he was still working, and I was writing. So it's taking away the self-sabotage, the self-belief, the ego, putting it in a box. As I've said to each and every one of them, right, are we ready to continue? Because leave the ego outside the room. Because I am trained to pick your ego up and chuck it out the room. Because I don't believe that writing, having an ego that says, well, that's not right, we should be doing it this way. Just do it any way you want, because it starts to make sense. It starts to build blocks. And that's what every writer needs to do, is build the blocks.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if they don't match.
Yeah.
Because the time will come when all those blocks will start fitting in together, like one of those little Russian dolls that,
Yes.
big doll, end up with a little doll. That's how I see writing.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I also find, so I know there's different ways of processing information and putting things together, but one of the things that I know about myself, and often, because I often find myself working with similar, I'm going to say mostly neurodivergent brains, actually, like mine, is that it's in either the verbal processing, like we're doing, or just starting to get all of the bits out of you in some semblance. It doesn't have to be in order, so that my brain can kind of pattern recognize where the common themes are, and and often the things that I will continually say about messaging or storytelling or being seen, visibility, whatever, I'll say the same things again and again, but it's not until you actually pull all of that out of your brain. Like, all the knowing needs to be out of me for me to actually see the patterns.
Yes.
And I think, I think a lot of people are
Exactly
like that. Hey, because and I think there's a mistaken thought that if you want to write a book, that you must know exactly how it's going to unfold. And I'm like, I would say that the book actually in some ways has a complete energy of itself, and it will show you what it needs you to do in a lot of ways. Like the unfolding, I feel, is not just up to me as the one putting the words on the paper. It's like I don't know, there's something calling the thing that you're creating into the material plane. It sounds very woo, but and it's got a message, and it's when I feel like the soul of the thing that you're creating is often what the ego is bumping up against, right? Because the ego is like, no, that's not going to get me what I want. I want this thing, but you're saying that you want this. It's like, two different kind of energies, I guess. You mentioned Auckland before. So how long have you been? So for those listening from everywhere else in the world, apart from Australia and New Zealand, Auckland is in New Zealand. It is not the capital of New Zealand, like a lot of people think it is. However, when did you end up making the shift from NZ over to here?
22 years ago.
And you actually, because the first time we met each other, I'd just gotten back from Waiheke, and you had lived on Waiheke. How bizarre is that?
Yes.
That's such a beautiful part of the planet. Oh, lovely.
Yes, it is. And the last book I wrote, which I'm editing at the moment, going through the edits at the moment, has quite a large chapter on the Waiheke that I knew. Just how it was almost like a third world country when I first went there. I mean, I lived in a tin shack on a dirt floor. I had an outside toilet that the actual long drop went over the creek. There was no such thing as, the next door neighbours are drinking this water. There was nothing like that. It was very rough. It was very, it is what it is. And I mean, I was 17.
But also part of me is like, the wild version of Waiheke. Like, it's gorgeous now, but before it was screwed with by, inhabitation and systems and whatever, I believe it would have been like the natural beauty of that island is stunning.
The section that belonged to my husband then, we divorced a few years later, but the section was just the most, I mean, at 17, I didn't appreciate it. When I look back now, I think, oh my goodness, how beautiful when I remember it. I remember walking down a pathway that was just overladen with nature and bush, and I'm sort of this little wee city girl in the middle of this long gravel pathway, thinking, I really just want to go home. Because I didn't appreciate the beauty around me, and the stream, and I was 20 minutes from the beautiful ocean. You know how blue that ocean is around Waiheke.
Goodness.
Going out on my relations fishing boat and diving off the boat and eating seafood straight out of the water. There was no such thing as no on the island.
Tell me more about that. No such thing as no. Because I continue. I'm
Okay,
interested in your
so
answer before
no
I.
such thing as no. I lived a very simplistic life, and my first husband was a narcissistic bully.
Mm.
He was only 20. I was 17.
Mm.
And
So little.
I was a baby. When I look back now and think, I never ever thought what tomorrow would bring. It was all about today.
Yeah.
I never made plans. I wasn't employable. I've had sort of an education, but nobody can say she's educated. Let's get her to work. I wandered the island in a pair of old rubber jandals, thongs, and a bikini bottom and a t-shirt, and that's how I lived.
Yeah.
And nobody said that's wrong. You should be, what did my mother-in-law say? You're not good as a woman unless you've had a child. So that was my main thing. That was my main point was I never had a child till I was 19. Even that was very young. And I left the island before then. But on that island, there was, how can I put it? There was the chatter of the suburbs had gone.
Yes.
And I became quite scared.
Interesting.
Because I didn't have my folks around me. I didn't have my family around me, or my sisters, or my cousins. Nobody. I had a family that didn't like me very much because I was just a baby.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that all these grown-ups were after one thing, and that was grandchildren. I had no idea. I had married into this family that were quite narcissistic in their outlook. And so, and I didn't have any friends. So I'd wander the island, stick a big stout stick in one hand, and if there was fresh seafood on the rocks, that was my lunch.
Yeah.
I'd sort of I didn't even have a watch. So
I
would wander
that sounds like my perfect life, Kez.
When I think now of how much and of course at 17, you don't take notice of what life is telling you. And I was a beautiful young lady. And yet I just felt that I was this time capsule for a baby machine. That's all everybody wanted, was a baby. And even my parents, they wrote to me and they said, so are you going to have a child? And I thought, I don't actually want a child. But how do you say that?
Yeah, when the expectation.
I was still under my parents' thumb well and truly. And to say, I don't want a child to your mother was heresy. Because that was your job. And that's the way I was brought up in a very religious family. That was my job. I was going to ask
that. Yeah. You told me a story about what you really wanted to do when, before you got married. And then you told me a story about how your mother was like, nope, this is where we're going to go to protect this wild child. Right. Yeah. So what did you really want to do?
What did I really want to do? Well, I've always wanted to be an artist, always loved being an artist, always loved being a creative, not just artwork, but give me a mud puddle and I'll give you a mud castle. And I love, I don't know how many times my grandchildren have literally deserted me on the beach because Nella's been so invested in the sandcastle.
I love it. I want to be that Nana.
It's like, but Nana, it's lunchtime. You go do what you want to do. I'm putting shells on the turret till I'm making holes for the night to ride through.
I'm not finished.
That's right. I'm not finished yet. So and they still tease me about that. Do you remember when you forgot the sandwiches? Because I'm a forgetful Nana.
Yeah.
Forgot the sandwiches and you forgot the drinks and everything else because you were right down to the beach and come on, kids, let's build a sandcastle. To me, there's nothing wrong with that. If there's $5 in my pocket, go buy an ice cream. I'm busy.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you know how much $5 of chips will feed?
Exactly.
That could be 2 meals for you little people. Did you had at one stage thought that you might head to the skies and travel too? So there was a little bit of an adventurous. Am I remembering that right?
You are an air hostess, yes. Yeah, I had this beautiful, glamorous picture of this tall, slim, svelte dark-headed young lady that captured so many hearts and was chased like, everyone I met just fell in love with me, including the pilot, and not knowing what sex was then, I just thought we were going to have a bit of a,
yeah,
passion pen.
mm-hmm.
I didn't understand what it was all about. No one had told me.
Yeah.
And so I had this image of this beautiful, beautiful young woman that was so educated, just walking up and down the aisle and saying, cigarettes, sir, glass of wine, sir.
Yes.
Not the whole, there's an emergency sign.
Yeah, no. Just the glamorous and the confidence and the power.
It was all very romantic. And I actually entered into an air hostess school, as they were called then, in Auckland. My parents lived in Wellington. I actually got accepted.
And then
my mother said no.
Yes, because your mother's
mother could see right inside my head, and she thought, there's no way you're going to walk the cabins of an airplane offering free sex to anybody.
Well, especially not from a religious background, right? No. And also, fair level of naivety. Oh my goodness, isn't that funny? So instead, you find yourself on an island, not connected to your family, not connected to the support network, no friends, with a bit of a not very balanced partner by the sound of it. How did you, when you talk about yourself as a young person, you've said a couple of times things that make me think that you kind of felt like you were unaware, but you were obviously aware enough to extricate yourself from that marriage reasonably quickly.
10 years.
Yeah, okay, so it was 10 years.
10 years of learning. And I could say, I could add that, oh my God, I could never forgive him, but the lessons he taught me of who I didn't want to be.
Yeah.
The lessons it was pretty rough. It was a pretty rough time. The lessons of, shall we use the word forgiveness, although that's a big word to use.
Yeah.
Where it comes to a partnership between two people and things that go wrong. I was very, how can you put it, up myself. Because I knew, as far as I was concerned, I was the perfect wife. I'd had the children. I kept the good house, but there was no love. Absolutely no love. And between two people, when there is no love and there is no love shown towards each other, of course, there's no harmony.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah.
And so my children, I had 2 children to the man, and we've often talked about it and discussed the fact that they only felt safe when mum was in the house. When mum decided to go to the shops or whatever, and I didn't have a car, so I walked everywhere, they would hide because father, I had taught them, do not associate with this man. He will harm you.
He's not safe. Yeah, he's not safe.
So, yes, I did the right thing because he turned out to be a pedophile.
Oh,
but
God. Okay.
I felt that maybe, and I don't beat myself up about it because my parents lived 4 doors down from me, and they saw the relationship that my parents had as a married couple and a nana and granddad. So they didn't dip out on seeing what relationships could be.
Could be, yes.
It's just that I didn't have that sort of relationship to offer them.
Do you look back on that and having your folks so close, do you wonder if they saw what the relationship was really like? Yeah.
Yes, they did. Yeah, they were very, very. I was very open about. I'd had enough.
Yeah.
And it was no longer a secret. And I lived in a very, very small town, place called Nungaroo, just north of Auckland, and it consisted of the village consisted of maybe a fisherman. Every fisherman knew what everyone else was doing, and there was a pub and a shop, and that was it. And so everybody knew what was going on. I had many, many times in the past, I've thought to myself, could I have done anything different? No, because I feel that life showed me what I had to do. My marriage was extremely violent, and I became an expert at hiding my feelings, my emotions,
Yeah.
and
Ball
just,
up.
yeah, I clammed up because, as I said, everybody knew what you were eating, literally, So it was, I'm not going to say anything. And it was my children, my two eldest children, that actually, when I left that relationship, they came out of their shells as well.
Mm.
And so it was like we all grew up in a big way together.
Mm-hmm.
And for that, I'll always be grateful because I learned so much.
Yeah. 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 It's interesting looking back at things like that, because part of me wants to say, how was it so normal that this was part of what was okay inside of a house if everybody in the community knew? But I'm not naive enough to think that that wasn't part of what was considered acceptable in especially little tight-knit communities, because you don't want to upset the collective, do you? So no one challenges anybody on any bad behavior, and it all just continues.
Yeah, it was, no doubt it still goes on in very small communities. I just was very aware that if I said anything or did anything out of the untoward that wasn't Kez,
Yeah.
it would be reported back to someone within the community who would then, most small villages are gossip mongers.
Yeah.
And no matter if you bought a cake, it would be reported back you bought a dozen cakes. What a waste of money. So you will always, I know.
Screwed if you do, screwed if you don't.
That's right. So you'll always be very, very careful walking down the road. You never actually looked into the eyes of another person, especially male, because you were encouraging them.
Yeah.
So my eyes were always on the ground, always watching where I went. And now and again, because that was really my childhood, I was being brought up that way.
Yeah.
And now and again, I will find myself in a situation where I have to actually look away from the person I'm addressing to gather my own thoughts. I'm not looking away because I'm embarrassed or whatever. I'm looking away because I have to listen to what's going on in my head and in my heart. Do I approve?
Yeah.
And that's the biggest lesson I ever learned, Kylie, was do I approve?
Yeah. What's
do I
my
approve
filter?
of this behavior? Do I approve of what you're saying? Because if you don't, as you grow up, you do learn to say, hang on a moment, this isn't right. You shouldn't be treating people like this. If dishonesty in any way or form is shown, then I learned very quickly to hold my hand up.
Yeah.
Once I had left that situation of violence, I learned that if I didn't hold my hand up, what was the point? Nothing was going to change if I didn't say something.
Correct. Yeah.
So hold your hand up and learn to be as tactful as possible. But there are times in your life when you can't afford to be tactful.
No.
And you've just got to spill it out. And that's when it came into writing, is put it on the paper. Because the biggest secret about writing, nobody realizes this, is only you're going to read that.
Yeah.
It'll check by the time it's been through a transformation of editing, structural editing, advice, a proofer, the whole story's changed.
Yeah.
And it might be a more gentle way of putting it towards your audience, yes. But you've told the truth. But in a much more acceptable way.
Yeah. As you're talking, it is very clear how some of your life experiences have made you committed to seeing people whole human to whole human, and also helping them give voice to their stories or what they want to express in the world. That's quite a beautiful thing. What do you feel like when someone's crafting a book about something that might be a charged topic or might be difficult? Like my own experience in writing, and even this podcast, like speaking your truth and writing your truth, are so cathartic in so many ways. When you're speaking and writing about things that have held power over you, or felt, like exposing things that you have previously felt either shame or guilt or something around, because now I know more than ever that all of those things only survive in the dark, and the dark is when you don't share them. So by putting them in the light, number one, you get a different perspective, but also they hold no power over you. That's been my experience. When you're helping people write about tricky things, how do you help them understand? Or actually, I should probably phrase that differently. Do you find that people are scared to write what they really want to when it comes to those tricky, charged subjects?
The biggest thing, or the biggest thought that I find over and over is, what are they going to think of me?
Yeah.
I've written something here that's blowing the boat out the water in my life, and what are they going to think of me? I also went through that when I wrote my first book. What is my family going to think of me? Because I wasn't my first book was like, let's put everything in here. Oh yes, put Wahiki, we'll put the rape, we'll put the incest, put everything in here. It went on and on and on. And the book was like a zillion pages big. And it was like a list of complaints.
That's it's basically lancing a trauma boil and then just allowing it all to seep out.
Best thing I ever did. That book never got published, of course. It never got published, but I still have that book. And now and again, I'll pick it up and I'll think, what a funny little girl you were then.
I know.
It was 20 years ago.
My first book that I wrote is 12 years old, and occasionally, like, it's on my bookcase. That's the only last copy that I've got, physical copy. And occasionally I'll go, like, just open it. I'm like, oh, you little naive 30-something-year-old. Look at you cute little thing. Because I'm like, I had no idea about lots of things. But I think that's a good point too, because at the time of writing, it's your truth, but that doesn't mean that it necessarily is always going to be your truth. And I don't mean like historical events, but like kind of like thoughts or opinions or perspectives or whatever. It's like, just because you put it in writing at one point in time does not necessarily mean that you will see things through that filter or that lens or through that perspective forever.
Because you grow, Kylie. You grow up.
Well, you'd hope so.
As you write, your ideas, your theory in life changes completely. When I look at, sometimes I'm listening to my daughters talk to their children, and I'm thinking, because I did that, and I wish I hadn't. It's spoken in a tone, spoken in a hurtful way. As a grandmother, I've had and I shouldn't say this, but I do have a favorite grandchild because I brought him up. His mother was unwell when she gave birth, and he lived with us for a very long time till he was 4, and then they went away. But I invested all of myself into that little boy, and I still see that little face. He's 24 now. And I met him at the airport in Sydney 6 months ago. I was not expecting him to be there. His grandfather rang him and said, your grandma's in Sydney airport. He drove 12 hours through the night to see me.
Oh, bless.
He came up behind me. I was looking at alcohol to bring home to my husband. And
as you do, in
two great big arms went around me. And he said, I love you, Nana. I know. And there's this dear old lady at the airport wrapped her arms around this great tall man and sobbed her heart out. Because the 4 years he lived with me, my husband and I, we pushed as much as we could into him to understand that not everybody's right, not everybody's correct, and the day will come when you have to stand up and say, no, I'm living my life. Yeah. And my older children, they all say to me, if you hadn't have shown us how to be independent, Mum. I'm not talking about making yourself a sandwich or earning $5 by month. Yes. I'm talking about your emotional discharge for the week, the day, whatever. If I hadn't have taught them that some of these things are very, very normal and some of them aren't. Now, when I became an arts therapy specialist, these things really hammered home to me that we are so full of what are we going to do today? And we never stop and think, what happened yesterday that could I have made it better?
Mm.
And what's stopping me from making me feel that I could make it better? Where's the full stop here? So art therapy also went to work on me as a person. And, you come out the other, it's like walking through fire sometimes. You come out the other side and you think, wow,
Yeah.
so this is me, this is who I am, and I really like me.
Yeah.
So my older kids have said to me that they really like each other. They really like each other as people. They like each other. They like themselves. And I just sat back and thought, my job's done.
Yeah.
Because when your kids actually enjoy their own company, what else could you ask for?
Yeah, exactly. They're not looking outside of themselves. Yeah, 100%. When you're talking about like your relationship with your grandson, like I'm not a grandparent yet, but I imagine, like I look back at my early parenting years. So my girls are 12 months apart, but my dad had a stroke in between those two. So we went from my husband and I to 5 in the family in 12 months, literally. And I just remember being very busy, kind of like what you said, like, I don't know, like my feet didn't touch the ground. Like that's the kind of, and I imagine having not only the wisdom of age, but also potentially more time to be present with your grandchildren versus what you are as a parent when you do have to, there is things that you need to be doing. Does it feel like you've just got a different, like, what do you think is actually the difference in perspective? Is it time? Is it wisdom? Is it that you've got more capacity to be present and you've kind of healed the parts that were?
When you're a young mum, this is the only way I can explain it to you. When you're a young mum and I was practicing my artwork, if my children touched my gear, don't touch that. That's mummy's. Don't touch. That went on through the years, and I heard them say it to their own children, don't touch, that is mummy's property, and you don't need to. When my grandson came to live with us, and he was toddling, and I was doing a lot of private artwork then for different clients, there was a couple of times there, the sweet wee boy would paint his hand and stick it on the canvas, just where I had finished doing something quite spectacular, or I thought it was spectacular. And I would look at these big brown eyes staring at me, and I'd think, how can I tell you off when you think you are so clever and helped Nana do
something magical?
And he thought, he would come and tell me, he would hold his hands up in the air and say, Nana, look what I've done. And I'd think, oh, shit. That's what I'd race. I had my artwork within another room. So I'd race back to the room and I'd think, oh my God, how am I going to fix this? What I learned very quickly in my life was I didn't have space for me and space for Jess. So when he lived with me, I would say to him, okay, this is our time, Bubs. So let's paint our hands, get a canvas, do some artwork. Within an hour, he was bored silly. He would walk away and start playing with his blocks and his bricks. I'd often come back to the artwork that we had done together and find a block stuck to it or a brick or something.
I love it. He was sculpting.
He was doing his thing. Yeah. And I learned then that, and I watched his little face, that if I growled, he felt incompetent. Yeah. He felt that he had done something wrong, whereas he hadn't done anything wrong.
No. And unfortunately, as parents, that's when we become the voice of whatever that's stuck in our kids' heads, that we don't want to have that impact on them, to impact their self-esteem or their rightness in the world, or whatever words you want to use for it. But unfortunately, we do. And I don't think that there's such a thing as a perfect parent or perfect whatever. I'm not talking about that, but I also, as you're talking, like I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast, there's a guy, Chip Conley, who talks about modern elder academy, and the way that he sees like middle age and onwards is this time where, rather than the ego running the show, which is very much where we are until we're sort of in our mid to late 40s, we turn into this, like, the soul is leading the show. So looking back at my journey as a young parent, I definitely was still in very much ego, and I would have been like, don't touch that, that's mum's, don't, have some respect, like that, very ego based. Whereas it sounds like the softening that you could access is definitely, it feels like more of a soul-led approach to that.
I think that it wasn't, I have 4 or 5 grandchildren. I think I have 5.
It's so hard to keep track of
things. There's a couple in New Zealand I'm not too sure about. But are they my grandkids? Okay. Anyway, so being this far apart too doesn't help any sort of relationship. But with watching, I guess, as I said, he's 24. Watching him make me a toasted cheese sandwich and a cup of tea. And saying to me,
a cheese toasty, Kez.
And him saying to me, anything else you'd like, Nana? In my own home.
Yeah.
I sat back and my husband just had the biggest smile on his face. He said, I think your job's done.
Yeah.
Because it was not soon after that, he became very impatient with life and couldn't wait to do this, couldn't wait to do that. And I said to him, well, how about we all put in towards buying you a decent transit van and you travel Australia and find out who you are.
Yeah. Oh, God. Go on a journey.
That's what he's done.
Yeah.
I think last time I heard, he was in Melbourne.
Yep.
And heading off towards the Gold Coast again.
I was going to say, go north at this time of the year. You don't want to be in Melbourne. It's too cold.
But Jesse's also very much into, I've just got so many friends. Nan and I always say, well, don't forget you are your own best friend.
Yes. 100%.
Don't forget that, Jess. At the end of the day, when chips are down, you're your own best friend.
Yeah. I think you've actually just ended perfectly on your quote for this podcast. Because I do feel like when you actually realize that everything you're seeking and all of the whatever, love, connection, approval, whatever, outside of yourself, actually what you're really looking for is what's internal.
That's like, right. It's all there. It's all there.
Yeah. Amazing. What a joy. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Now, where can people find you online, though, if they want help with pulling their work or their life story out into the world? You've got a beautiful new website to share with us.
Yeah, beautiful. They just have to go to the website to contact me. All the emails come through.
Perfect.
Yeah, so just go on there. There's an email you can contact me with. I think there's even a phone number they put there. So you can have a free half-hour chat with me.
Yeah. And that is at kezwickham.com, which will be in the show notes as well.
Yeah.
So fun to chat with you. Thank you so much for the reminder of that beautiful under the breakfast bar, apart from the polyester, apart from the polyester quotient. But yeah, just the memory of feeling safe and cozy and snuggled up with people that love you. Very cool.
I should have been a podiatrist actually, because I got to know people speak really well.
And then you could come here and give my little toes a working out, because they are not right. They really aren't.
Only you think that.
Oh, I don't care about people seeing them. I'm not like that. But they're just, I'm like, these definitely are not normal toes. They're all. Anyway.
Oh, well. You can always be a bat and a hang upside down.
Well, that's what I always say to people. Well, how do you grip onto trees when you're walking up? Like that literally is what they like. So how do you stay stable on the branches? And they just kind of look at me. I'm like, job done. Okay, move on.
I love it.
Thank you so much, Kez, for sharing your beautiful self with us today.
And thank you, Kylie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Wild and Finally Fucking Free. I'm Kylie, your host. And Given that I know you would have enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow freedom seekers. Remember, being seen in all our mess and magic helps heal ourselves and the world, because the world needs more wild and finally fucking free humans. Have a great day.